Okay, so my name's Amanda, and my presentation this evening is about the benefits of play for us not only as entrepreneurs, but also just as adults, because we all need play just as much as children do, and how it can help us in our businesses, in our lives, and to find our productivity again. But most importantly, how a daily dose of play can help keep the stress away. So when I think of this, I kind of think of Mary Poppins and how she talks about a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. And I just wanted to play a little clip because I feel like this is the vibe that we could take into our lives to help us in those moments where the stress arises. And we can sing along. But as that clip goes on, she ends up taking that approach to something that is maybe not as fun, like cleaning up your toys, into making it a really fun task. So that is kind of my approach to stress and to our to-do list and the things that arise as entrepreneurs, and really just people in general who have things to get done. So taking that element of fun into it. So a little bit about me. My name is Amanda Evans, and I have a business called Mind, Body, Soul Miracles, and I help families heal together through love, connection, and play. And so one of the services I offer is play therapy, which is why I'm so passionate about talking about play and the effect it can have on our lives. And so I also support adults and parents in bringing more play into their lives too, because I think as we grow up, sometimes we lose that element of play and fun, which is so important for us. And so a lot of this has to do with my own experience healing from a brain injury, where I focused so much on healing the issue rather than just living my life or focusing on the things that actually do bring me joy. And so there's that element too with having a business and always focusing on the things that need to get done or focusing on the problems that you need to solve. And often when we're focusing so much on the problem, we end up getting more of that, as opposed to focusing on the feeling that you want to feel or focusing on the things that you do enjoy. So that's kind of my approach to many things, but also to having a business. And so I guess my question is for all of you, as entrepreneurs or as people who have a business or work for another business, what are some of the challenges you experience? And what are some of the parts that working for yourself may add more stress in your life? So if you want to share, or if you want maybe just to take a moment to talk to the person next to you and maybe chat about what some of the challenges are or what some of the things are that bring up stress for you. Sabrina, what do you have to share?
I was going to say, as an entrepreneur, working from home alone a lot of the time, so it feels like you're often going through things by yourself, and so that can just add stress to it. So
You've got a great solution for that.
Yeah.
You do.
That was a plug.
I love that, and that's so true. And I feel like that's where connection comes in too, right? And asking people for help and what you need. Does anybody else have any other stressors? Yes.
I'm struggling what to say no to.
Leading into another presentation. I can relate to that one too, yeah. Because there's so many things that demand your attention, right?
I'm sort of just realizing that there is so much more abundance than I would have thought. And that in order to narrow my focus, I just have to really pick what I love and go strong with it. But I find that I never expected such a wide open world of opportunity.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's analysis paralysis. I don't even know.
Oh my goodness, yes.
What I would like over one thing. Just too many decisions.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And I think it's incredible that you can like focus on the fact of how incredible abundance is and having all those opportunities. And also it's your chance to get clarity on what it is you want moving forward too, which will then make that easier of what do I really want to say yes to and what don't I want to do, right? And anybody else have anything to share? Yes.
I work for myself at home, and one of the challenges is work is always just right there.
Right.
And when you're trying to sit on the couch and watch TV, I got those things, I gotta get those done, so it's just right there. It's that getting that separation.
And being able to turn that off and turn the rest on, right? I totally get that. Does anyone else have anything to share? Yes.
It's admitting to yourself that there's no such thing as balance and realizing how to prioritize certain things and when.
Yeah, that's so key. I feel like I'm the same way. Like I'm like, what does balance mean? We talk about it all the time, but is it real? Does it exist? But I like how you were talking about prioritization, right? So what are we prioritizing now and what can wait until later? So let's find a way to lessen some of these stresses. So I would like to be able to help take you from this, from feeling really stressed and when you're like, no, I'm fine, everything's great, but it kind of feels like it's falling apart, or to this, so where you're able to have fun with the process and really enjoy things and have them not feel quite as stressful, but just have that sense that you will get to everything in the time that it's meant to without putting so much pressure on yourself. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the nervous system and what happens when we're stressed. And really, my favorite phrase is taking people from fight or flight to stay in play. Because what I truly believe is that like when we're in fight or flight, that can be turned on in so many ways and we can be in a chronic state of stress. But when we're stressed all of the time, or even just when we're having really like stressful thoughts, that is just like constantly allowing our brain and our body to emit neurochemicals. And it's like this combination of cortisol, adrenaline, and norepinephrine. And it's like the cocktail of stress hormones. So that can even happen. We have the mind-body connection. So if you're constantly thinking in your head about all the things that could go wrong, or about, oh my goodness, I need to do this, and this is all the things I need to do, and then I need to do that, and then I need to do this, you're actually keeping that loop going in your brain, which then is putting you in a state that you're more susceptible to getting sick or to really like crashing or to just not feeling happy. And that's just so key. We all deserve to feel happy and healthy. And so I kind of love this picture here of just like all of the different thoughts and things that are going on, because that's sometimes what our thoughts are like, from one thing to the rest, without just being able to like find our calm and our presence. And so I like the idea of cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine being because I feel like when we're in that state and we feel like I need to do, I need to get all these things done, we can do them. That's fight or flight. It's like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna run, I'm gonna get all these things done. But when we do that all the time, that's not great for our nervous system and it's not great for our health and happiness. So when I talk about stay in play, I talk about when we're doing that thing that we love so much that it's like time goes away, we actually tap into our parasympathetic nervous system that allows our body to heal on its own. So we have our sympathetic nervous system and our parasympathetic, and what happens is when we're in fight or flight, it's that sympathetic, and when that's turned on, our body actually cannot heal itself. But when our parasympathetic nervous is turned on, that's also linked with the phrase rest, digest, and regenerate. Our body can do those things, and our body is made to naturally heal itself. But when we're stressed all the time, we can't allow that to happen. So that's why I talk about a daily dose of play keeps the stress away, because when we are in a highly elevated emotional state, so when we're feeling so much gratitude or love or joy or just doing something we love so much, we're actually eliciting neurochemicals that are dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins that then we just feel so good, and those things also help our body to heal. So we've all been here. I don't know about you, but I have, and even just doing this presentation, I'm like, well, I'm practicing what I'm preaching right now, I need to step away. So I feel like it's that thing that either you have all the tabs on your computer open, or it feels like you have all the tabs open in your brain and you're not really getting anywhere, but you feel like you need to get this done now, so you can't stop because you need to do it. Or just that feeling like you're hitting a wall and the stuff that you need to get done, it's just not happening and you're feeling stuck. So I'd like to help you in those moments. So what can we do when we hit that wall? So I kind of think about we all just are collecting tools all the time that are going to help us. So what are more tools that we can add to our toolbox? So some of the things we can do is, what I like is kind of like the Mary Poppins clip, is do what you love first before you get to the harder tasks or the ones that you might not enjoy as much, because it's like we're priming our brain to enjoy the tasks more. So it's like do the easy thing before the hard thing. That's kind of my approach and what I find helps. One thing is we can always do is gratitude always helps. So we can just take a pause before we get back to what needs to get done and just list out or journal out 3 or more things that you're grateful for. And so gratitude really just like helps reset us, and it also helps our nervous system. So one of the most important things I think, and I feel like we could all do this more, is celebrating our wins. I feel like there's that thing that you're like, okay, I did this thing, that's great, now what's next? What do I have to do next? Oh my goodness, now I have all these things to do. But it's like when we actually take the time to pause and to celebrate what went well, or to celebrate like all the progress you've made, that makes such a big difference. And really, I think it's the biggest tip is connect with what you love and connect with your creativity, and then come back to what you were doing, because you'll find that it's completely different than if you kept sitting there hitting that wall just trying to get the thing done. And so really, I think it's important to take a break when you're in those moments. So I always love the phrase, when we pause, we have a chance to pivot. So I also love meditating, and I use that same phrase for that. But it's really just taking an intentional pause in whatever you're doing, because I feel like we could make a schedule and be like, I'm going to work from this time to this time. But if we pause and do it sporadically, we're actually going to be more successful in what we're doing, and we're going to have more productivity. We're going to do the tasks faster than if we sat there and tried to do it for longer. So my favorite thing is, instead of our to-do list, why don't we call it a get-to-do list? Because we get to do these things, and even just like changing our attitude around it makes the biggest difference. Because if we're approaching the things that we're doing every day and we're like, I have to do this now, we're not going to enjoy it, and it's going to be harder to do. But if we're like, I get to do this because I get to have a business, because I get to help people, because I get to, then we're already changing our approach to it and having more fun doing it. So I think it's finding more fun, and then the work gets done. So I found some other quotes about this, but really it's like, when I think about this, when in your lives have you found that your most creative ideas have come through? Is it when you're sitting at that computer, really trying to go? Or is it maybe when you're taking a shower, you're at the gym, you're going for a walk? Like you're doing those things that maybe aren't your job, that aren't sitting there trying to get things done. So I also like talking about how play is kind of our place to practice what we're learning. And it's also through play we learn to problem solve. So often when we hit that wall, it's when a problem comes up. And when we keep trying to solve it from that same level of awareness, we often can't find the answer. But if we step away, then we let the answer come to us. And so I love the idea of the flow state. So oftentimes when we want to get something done, we're in the do mode. But I think there's something about the balance between doing and being. So it's that level of also like even just manifesting things in our business, doing less and attracting more. But I think it's just that finding that place where you're not doing all the time, but also receiving help, receiving support, and not having it all be you're doing this because that's the only way it's going to get done. And so there's so many benefits of just being in the flow state. It's like that sense of timelessness because you're lost in the doing, you're enjoying it so much. There is just so much mental clarity, which I feel like when we're stressed, we actually can't access that clarity because stress turns on our nervous system, which then blocks our ability to think clearly and to even access our thoughts when we want to. And so there's so many benefits to that. And so really, as we can all tell already, one of my favorite tools is play. And I think that play is the best antidote to perfectionism. And I say this as somebody who is like a recovering perfectionist and was like that kid who was stressed out all the time growing up. And it was like everything needed to be perfect. I needed to get like the 100s. I needed to do it great. And like it wasn't done until I was happy with it. And I was that kid who just like do all the time. And it took a toll on my nervous system and my health and my happiness because nothing was ever good enough. It was all that strive for good enough. And so I believe that play is the best tool, especially for perfectionists. Because I think that as we know there's a mind-body connection, that means that if we're constantly stressed and we're having thoughts about this isn't good enough, I need to do this, then that's actually causing issues in our body and keeping us in that mental loop of stress, which then isn't really helping our lives or helping us to live a happy, healthy life. So we it's activating our sympathetic nervous system. And so, like I said before, coming back to something that feels easy, and then what feels fun, so it not only helps you to be happy and healthier, but it also helps, it's a form of rewiring your brain. So if you do the thing that's easy first and then you come back to the other task, then you're going to approach it with like more confidence in yourself and like better self-esteem, but it's just, you're showing up in a way where you're not as hard on yourself because you're having fun with what you're doing before and you're just changing the experience in your mind until the hard thing then becomes the easy thing. And then we keep learning and we keep building those synaptic connections in our brain. And so what I like to think is play takes the pressure off and reminds us that we're human and we get to be imperfectly perfect and that we are exactly as we are. And really, it's just that, I think it's that importance to focus on the journey rather than the destination. So it's not when I do this or when I achieve this, everything is going to be great and I'm going to be worthy. It's how can I have fun every step of the way? How can I enjoy it and celebrate every step of the way and every win? And so what I kind of love about play is that there's no wrong way to play. And like when you think about being a kid and that thing that you love doing so much, that it is like time went away. That's when you're in the flow creative state. And that's when your attention isn't on the things that you have to do or the things that are stressing you out. So it was like that comment about like having that, taking like the separation between your work and your home life. When you're constantly thinking about work, you can't have that separation. So when you're doing something that allows you to completely stop thinking about your work and what's stressing you out, then you are able to enter that state and able to turn on your parasympathetic nervous system, which allows you to relax and allows you to enjoy the present moment. So I think play really brings us back to the present moment. And so play really is how we learn. Like that is how we learn best. And so if we're learning something new and we take time away and we practice what we're learning, we're going to keep learning more because we're going to be more confident in ourselves and we're going to just have a different approach to it. So my question is, what is that thing that you love to do? So what is the thing that lights you up, that when you're doing it, you're just so incredibly happy because this is the thing you get to do? And yeah, the focus is on doing something that when you're doing it, you're simply being. You're simply being in that moment, being present. And so go to that place, do that thing, and then you'll feel more excited, inspired, and motivated to do the thing that you were originally stressed out about. So I just wanted to, I was just asking, can your inner child come out to play? Because I think that's what it normally is. It's like, as a child, we just played. It's what we did, and we loved it so much. And then we grew up, and we're like, now I need to be a grown-up, and I need to do all these things. But we don't. Like, our inner child's still in there being like, play with me. Let's have fun. And so I just wanted to bring you guys through a little mini visualization and exercise. So because I know sometimes even if we've been away from the things we love to play for so long, when we think about it, we're like, what do I do to play? Like, what is that thing that when I'm doing it, it's like I forget about all the stress and everything else? Because when we don't do that for so long, it's really hard to figure out what that is. And sometimes it takes like going back to a place in your life or a time, and it might even be when you were super young, that like you were in that state. So if you're comfortable with it, you can take a moment and just sit and close your eyes. And I'm just going to bring you through a little visualization. So the idea is that maybe when you're in that stress state, you don't have time to go and play for an hour, but you might have 10 minutes or 5 minutes to go somewhere in your mind. So that's the idea of the mind-body connection, and that this is super powerful to access that state that I'm talking about in your brain without needing to go anywhere. You can do this all in your mind. So take a moment. You're going to close your eyes. Take a big breath in, just breathe in. Let go of anything you no longer need and just breathe out. Breathe in one more time. And breathe out. Now I want you to take one hand and I want you to place it on your heart. Now imagine that you are 5 years old. You are in the place that brings you so much joy. you just couldn't imagine being anywhere but here in this moment. Where are you? What are you doing? And what are you playing? I want you to imagine what you see around you. What colors do you see? What toys do you see? Now, are you by yourself or are you there playing with someone? Now, I want you to really anchor into this feeling. What is this feeling? Is it joy? Is it love? Is it just being so freaking excited that you couldn't imagine being anywhere else? Now, once you've figured out this thing that you loved to do as a child, I want you to imagine, how can you take the same feeling and bring it into what you do every day? How can you take the elements of what you love to do through play and bring more of this in your life today? Okay, now when you're ready, I want you to open your eyes. And one of the best parts about going to that thing you love to do as a child is I feel like those games we played say so much about what we value in our life and what's important to us. So one of the best examples that I always used to joke about is I feel like as a kid, I loved to play Barbies. And I feel like I had that like psychologist brain even as a child being like, there's something to this. Everybody's story is super different. Like my Barbies have this story, but my friends have this one, and like they have conflict all the time, and mine is just this. And I feel like that's kind of the approach I take with play therapy is we're playing out the things we want in life, our dreams, our wishes, but also the struggles that we're having. And kind of what I love about that is the idea of what story are you creating in your life? But what is it that you love about that experience? So I think it's the key to always go back to that feeling. What's the feeling you had when you were playing that game? And how can you take that feeling into your life now? So for example, if somebody's favorite game or toy was Jenga, and they loved building things up, and they loved doing it as a team, and then they loved that when it tumbled down, they got to build it up again, and then it was all good. That just like, you just psychoanalyzed yourself because maybe what's important to you is cooperation, is working with other people, is problem solving and knowing that you're building something from the ground up. So even just thinking back to a simple game that you played as a child can actually tell you a lot about yourself, can tell you about the things that are important to you so you can get back to that feeling in your everyday life. And when we go back to that simple place, it's like amazing the inspiration we get and the motivation to come back to what we were doing with a whole different approach and a different feeling. So thank you guys for having me today. And this, I kind of just love this quote: the body heals with play, the mind heals with laughter, and the spirit heals with joy. And I would love to connect with anyone who wants to chat after. If you have any questions, if you want to visit my website and subscribe, you can also get a free 3-day mini love connection and play journal. So if you want to even explore what you love to play more, there's an option there to really think about it and anchor into it a little bit more. So thank you guys.